Attention prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Master of the day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, and Thee alone do we beseech for help. O Allah, guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom Thou hast bestowed favors, not the path of those upon whom Thy wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray. Ameen. Please be seated, family. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. En el nombre de Allah, el benéfico, el misericordioso. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is His messenger. I want to greet our family here this beautiful Sunday morning in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the ancient language of all of our forefathers, the language of Arabic. Assalamu alaikum. How are you all feeling? I too am feeling fine and honored and humbled to welcome the black man and woman of North America here to your home, Mosque Mariam, which is the national center for the retraining and the re-education of the black man and woman of America and of the earth. So thank you for making a wise decision, all of us making a wise decision today, and being first and foremost thankful to Allah for allowing us to see another day, and then not making waste of that day. Because when you come to hear the life-giving teachings designed by God Himself to uplift you and I to the position that He intends for us, there's no way that that could be considered a waste of time. Is that right? So we want to thank you and thank Allah for allowing us to arise this day and even have an opportunity to make a decision. Isn't that beautiful? We could have chosen to do anything else this morning, but we decided to try to be obedient to God and come hear a word, which we know will absolutely help us to become what we and Allah Himself desire for us to be. So give yourself a round of applause this morning for just making a wise decision and being thankful to Allah that we have this choice to make today. We want to welcome those of you who may be here for just your first or second time, or even if this is your 1,000th time here. We want to thank you for submitting to our customs and procedures here in the Nation of Islam. Those of you who are just here for your first and second time, you may not be familiar with our customs, but that's okay, and that's why we're going to just briefly explain some of them to you so that none of us misunderstand one another or are offended by that. Is that okay? Hopefully when you came to the door, there was either a beautiful brother or sister who greeted you, asked you to come forward, asked you how you were doing, greeted you with a smile, and then asked you to take everything out of your pockets and submit to a search procedure. Is that right? All of us submitted to that. None of that is with the intention of offending anyone. We want you to understand that if you've ever traveled before outside of this country, has anyone ever traveled to a foreign nation before? Did you have to go through what is called customs? Well, you're coming into the nation of Islam. This is not a church. This is not just a mosque or temple. This is a nation which you are coming into. And coming out of a world where mayhem and violence and disorder is the order of the day. We want to make sure that nothing that we can harm one another or ourselves with come through the borders of the nation of peace. Is that right? So all of us are asked to submit to that search procedure, not because we want to offend one another, but we want to ensure that everyone has a level of peace and comfort, because you don't have to worry about what somebody may have in the room who's sitting next to you, all right? So we thank you all for submitting to that search procedure. Secondly, if you may have come with your mother, your daughter, your wife, your significant other, husband, boyfriend, friend, whatever it may be, maybe just a male or female friend who invited you, you notice that we're sitting separately from one another right now. Is that right? Now, I don't know what you may have thought coming into Islam or what you may have heard before, but it is not because we think that one is greater or lesser than the other. We know that the male and female are both reflections of the divinity of God. Is that right? But we also know that God in that divinity made us to be attracted to one another. Is that right? Well, you don't even have to bear witness. The fact that you and I are sitting here looking at one another bears witness to some male and some female at some point in the past were attracted to one another. Is that right? Or you and I wouldn't even be here today. So there's a natural attraction which God has made and designed the male and female to be leaning towards one another, to be attractive to one another. But that natural attraction can serve as a distraction at times. Can it not, brothers? Can it be a distraction, sisters? So to make sure that none of us are distracted and alleviate some of those natural attractions and distractions, we simply separate the male from the female so that the attention of the listener and the student is on the speaker. Is that all right? So it's not to offend anyone, and again, we thank you to submitting to our procedure, because this is our custom, this is our way, this is the way not just that we thought was good for us, because we're not intelligent enough to make this kind of decision. This is the way that God himself has designed us to be educated and brought up into his mind and his thinking, so we thank you again for submitting to that procedure. Lastly, before we go further into the program, I want to make sure I introduce to you, hopefully not for the first time, this periodical, or what's called a newspaper, The Final Call. Is everyone familiar with this? Does everyone have this, their latest edition, which says, The Jenna 6, a clear case of racial hatred? If you don't have it, don't get up right now. But at the end of the program, this will be available to you. I suggest if you have one that you pick up another one. Because just as you felt better after having read the information and news and guidance in this periodical, you know there's somebody else that you know on your block, in your house even, who needs this kind of uplifting word. And what would you look like not putting this word of divine guidance into their hand? It wouldn't be right, would it? But I don't want you to get up right now. You can do it after the program is dismissed. This is available for only $1 at the end of the program. Is everyone feeling all right? Are you happy to be alive today? Now, before we go further and before I bring up our next guest, I always like to do this because I know we're in the Windy City in Chicago and everybody wants to be cool here and we all think we're, tough and cool people. I want you to just turn to the brother on your left and your right and introduce to yourself. Sisters, turn to the sisters next to you. Give them a smile, touch them. Shake their hand. Let them feel you. Look at that. You can't greet somebody and have a frown on your face, can you? See how much better you feel already now that you've touched the life force and the divinity of God that was sitting right next to you? And look at the smile you brought to their face. Now, if you can make somebody else that happy, what are you looking all frowning for to me when I'm just trying to welcome you as your brother? You all feeling better now? Praise be to Allah. Let's go a little further into the program. You're in for a special delight today. It's always a good day when we're awake to hear the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but we have young, fiery, male and female and people of God today coming before you who are dedicating their lives to the service of us as black people and to the uplift of us as a community and nation. Are you all ready to hear that kind of word? Well, let's welcome our first speaker to the roster, and please greet him with a round of applause, Minister Marcus Muhammad.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you in the greeting words of peace in paradise. Assalamu alaikum. You look absolutely wonderful. All praises I do to Allah. As I sat and listened to Minister Abel Muhammad, let's give Minister Abel another round of applause. Who is working hard, crisscrossing the nation to show our brothers and sisters that we are one, which is the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. But I just wanted to say a few words to perhaps stimulate some thought and cause you to ponder. You know, the enemy who is wickedly wise. The Revelator described him as having eyes in front as well as having eyes in the back of his head. And the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said it represented that he has a wise understanding of history, of that which is behind. But having a wise understanding of history gives one a prudent understanding of the present and the future. I wish somebody was listening. So the enemy has always monitored, studied that which was coming from the womb of the black woman. Because like Herod was looking for the Messiah, with great intelligence. The enemy has always been looking and scathing the horizon to see what Messiah would come forth from the black man and woman. So any strong black man that was raised up amongst our people, the enemy didn't take no time to come down on him with 2 feet. Y'all right? So when Nat Turner, who they said had a Bible in one hand and a sword in the other, because he was a preacher, but he was looking at the gospel in the Old Testament from a different angle that made him want to say, I have to free and liberate my people. And the first time he attempted it, they got him. But he said the reason why he felt he was caught was because he didn't try to get more. Harriet Tubman, who was a sister, but she traveled with the heat. Is that right? Because she knew she was dealing with some scared to death slaves. And she freed approximately 319, but she said she could have freed thousands. But she said the only problem was if they knew that they were slaves, she could have freed some more. I wish somebody was listening. So they had a $30,000 warrant out for her head, like Bin Laden, dead or alive. But as we came into the 20th century, and Paul Robeson and Garvey and men like that began to step forward, he was getting wiser and wiser, and coming with more tricks and snares to cripple the development of the black man and woman. So Garvey got up in 1915, but they destroyed the UNIA before 1930. Noble Drew Ali started in 1913, but he was off the scene in 1929 under mysterious circumstances. W.E.B. Du Bois died brokenhearted because they took his passport and he was deported and he died in Guinea. Dr. King, after he won the Nobel Peace Prize, became the Man of the Year, gave his innocuous I Have a Dream speech, and was declared the most dangerous Negro in America. By 68, he was gone. Ali on the scene, floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. Now they want him to go to the army. Is that right? But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who the enemy could not touch. Think about that. Medgar Evers, they got off the scene. But here's a man who stood from the 30s to the 70s, preaching the most strongest truths. And as they say that Jesus is a revolutionary and that he would attract revolutionaries. So Larry Hoover, Jeff Ford, Tookie Williams, any black man with influence, with the ability to organize men, the enemy got to get him out of the way. Even Tupac and Biggie. I wish somebody was listening. You mind if I quote a few Biggie lyrics for you? Biggie said the federal agents was mad because he was flagrant. Said they tapped his cell and his phone in the basement. So his mother said the night he was killed, where was the FBI? Since they were monitoring and had my son under surveillance. But the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, out of all of the great ones that we have had to stand up and preach and teach us, he's the last man standing. Is that right? And as the Bible says, touch not my anointed. Kiss the Son. Is that right? Because if you do something else to him, you got some serious problems on the way. All praise is due to Allah. But the thing about following a man with a mission like that, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that, some could follow him in the cool of the night. But in the heat of the day, they couldn't hang. So we calling all that want to be strong, that want to be bad, not, in an unrighteous way, who want to be bold, who want to represent a new word in a new world. We calling all. And if all we can get is a few, that's okay. Because if the Marines only need a few good men, then God can take one and bring this enemy down. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as we bring Minister Fontaine forward, he said, if just one believes, I'm going to say that again. He said, if just one is truly convicted to this word and to this truth, then the enemy can't win. And he got a standing army of the most technological weaponry that the world has ever seen. But David took down Goliath with one smooth stone. Is that right? And that was, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, Bismillah, which is in the name of Allah. So we got a wonderful, wonderful program for you today. We want to move it forward because our keynote is chomping at the bit. So let's receive with a warm round of applause, Brother Minister Fontaine Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. Dear family, can we please give Brother Minister Marcus another big round of applause? Yes, sir. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I'm very honored to bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I'm very grateful and honored to have the opportunity to say that in the year 2007, I'm blessed to stand with the most beautiful human being that I've ever met in my young lifetime. We thank Allah for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, dear family. Thank him, and we could never thank Allah enough. I want to greet you one more time in the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, Minister Marcus already said it, our keynote minister today. He's chomping at the bit. He's ready to come before you. Many of you know this young brother, but for those who don't, you are in for one of the greatest Sunday meetings of your lifetime. We have here at Mosque Mariam a very young, powerful, and beautiful brother. Many of you have heard him before. His name is Minister Nuri Muhammad, hailing from Indianapolis, Indiana, Muhammad Mosque number 74. You can give him a hand because he's going to do his work today. You're going to get fed at Mosque Mariam. Now, brothers and sisters, in my short introduction, I'm feeling real good this morning. I'm feeling good because what Minister Marcus and what Minister Abel shared with us, I'm honored to just simply bear witness. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is indeed the last man standing. He's the last man standing. I say that not because I just believe it. I say it because I'm a young witness bearer as one that he raised from death and has now given life. The enemy fears the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he fears his student because in these two men is the unadulterated spirit of the Almighty Creator himself. In their mouths, all praise is due to Allah. In these men's mouths are those words, that inspiration, that power, that spirit, that vision, that message that will raise a black man off of crack cocaine. In their mouths is a word that will take a sister out of prostitution and make her a woman, a mother, and a civilizer of her children. In the mouths of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan are the words of God that will take a gangbanger and make him into a man of repute and a man of great strength, character, and nobility. In the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan are the words of truth that will take Satan's world all the way down and all the way out and bring into existence what we call the hereafter. Not a spooky hereafter, but a world here on earth, here in America, on earth after the powers of the wicked have been broken. There's nothing more dangerous, brother and sister, than an idea whose time has come. The enemy understands that in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his student now, can you imagine? You ain't dealing with the teacher face to face, although he's alive and well. But the teacher so masterful, so skillful, so divinely guided by the Creator that he raised a student as a representative of the wisdom and went away to get more wisdom, that when he returns, all power of the enemy will be broken completely. But you are in the hour with his student who is so masterful that now he has become a master, raising men and women all over America and throughout the world. I love when Minister Marcus said the last man standing, because when you think about it, there's not one human being on the earth today doing what your brother, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, is doing. Can you imagine this? Not one on the earth doing what he's doing. A man traveling the highways and byways of America with not as much as a penknife in his hand. But a man drawing crowds 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, yea, even into the millions, not talking about sex and dance and foolishness and stupidity, not playing a song or beating the drum, but teaching the wisdom of God, raising a black man from death into life. So the scripture says, how can they know except they have a teacher? And how can they have a teacher except one be sent? Well, we're here, young men, young women, letting you know that a teacher is in fact in your midst, and a teacher who has no fear, no compromise with the enemy, and will do the job of the redemption of nearly 50 million black men, women, and children throughout America, and whose trumpet has grown so loudly, brother and sister, that he is literally speaking now for the poor and the oppressed all over the entire world. We thank Allah for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his valedictorian, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That's why you're here this morning, to be raised from one level to another. Are y'all all right? Now, brother and sister, you're looking at a young brother who loves this truth. I love this truth because before I heard this truth, I had nothing and was about nothing. But in the name of Almighty God and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, we have something to say of value today. The young man that I'm about to bring before you, he's only 32 years of age. Now think about what I'm saying. He's a 32-year-old young man, looks like a 22-year young man, and he's been in Indianapolis, Indiana, blazing this trumpet for 10 long years. You know what you were doing at the age of 22, is that right? We weren't blazing for the most part, no trumpet of truth. We were on something totally and completely different. But we thank Allah for Islam. For Islam comes to you and I after everything else has failed us. We've tried church, we've been there, we've done that. We love God, we love Jesus, but we need some discipline. We can't be in the church shaking and dancing and bumping and grinding in the name of God and expect to raise a black man strung out like we are from the conditions that we are in. We ain't knocking the church, but you know exactly what I'm saying. You can't get this type of black man up without a strong truth and a strong man bold enough to speak that truth. And can you imagine that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, a man who stood in 1977 to rebuild the work of a broken nation of Islam, has now 120 mosques and study groups throughout America and throughout the world, raising up young men to represent this bold, uncompromising wisdom in a world gone mad. So when you see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, you should really open up your mind and open up your heart and ask the question, how is he able to do it when so many others that Minister Marcus mentioned they tried but were unsuccessful in the ultimate aim of raising an entire people? We ain't the easiest people to raise, brother and sister. We've been destroyed. But you see the work coming to life. You see our people waking up. And those who won't wake up from a word, we're going to wake up from something else. But today, you will hear a word that I promise you will raise you up from one level to another. When you leave Mosque Mariam, I'm going to come back with Minister Nuri at the end and ask you the question. How do you feel right now as opposed to the way you felt when the doors opened at 10 a.m.? And I guarantee you that this young fireball minister will have awakened your mind, will have awakened your heart, will have lifted your spirit, will have removed your burdens, and will have given you a light-giving teaching that will take you from one level to another. So here we are at Mosque Mariam, ready to receive a beautiful young man, 32 years of age, speaking sometimes 2 and 3 times a day in Indiana and all up and down the Midwest. I want you to help me to receive a young man who traveled, I believe, nearly 5 to 6 hours to share a word with us at Mosque Mariam. We just want you to give him your ear, give him your attention, give him your mind for just 1 hour and a half, and your condition will grow up and down. You will not be the same when you leave Mosque Mariam. I want you to know that the word that we're speaking today is available to you 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. This is a word that's out there all day and all night. And when you come to Mosque Mariam to receive that word, you become a repository of that word, and you become a little Muhammad yourself. This is what you're watching today. You are watching little Muhammads and little Minister Farrakhans, full of wisdom, knowledge, and power. And this is the greatest fear of our enemy. They don't know who has been affected. We ain't talking about just Biggie Smalls and Tupac. The enemy understands that the whole world has been affected in some way, shape, or form by the word of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And that is what he fears more than anything else. Who has been awakened by the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So as we speak, your life is in danger. Our lives are in danger, brother and sister. The enemy understands our great future. He understands that we are the rulers of the New World Order, and his aim and objective is to kill every single one of us. But will we make up our mind today that the enemy cannot have our lives? The enemy can no longer have access to our minds and our hearts. We want wisdom today. We want knowledge today. We want power today. We want the life-giving word that will make us unable to be stopped by any force or any power. And you found that this morning at Mosque Mariam, and all praise is due to Allah. I thank each and every one of you for being here, brother and sister. We're going to move speedily into today's program with Minister Nuri Muhammad. Give him a big round of applause as he makes his way to the rostrum. He'll be here in just a moment. I don't want to take over his program. Then I'm going to be in trouble. But brother and sister, while he's making his way, I don't want to just start trying to go into nothing because I know it's not my day, and we as ministers, we can be selfish. We'll just get to teaching a keynote, and it ain't my keynote. So I want my brother to have his opportunity to do what he's here to do. So again, I want you to now receive with me the Indianapolis, Indiana representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, a 32-year-old looking like a 16-year-old. Come on and receive one of the great fireball ministers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Here he is, Minister Nuri Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you, family. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, who came in the person of Master W. Farad Muhammad, we are forever thankful to him for his messenger, Messiah, the exalted Christ, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we're thankful in this hour for the one who sits in his seat, a divine leader, a divine teacher, and a divine guide to them, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'd like to thank Almighty God, Allah, not just for the master, the messenger, and the minister, but I would like to thank Allah for all of the Muslims that strive hard in Allah's way to keep the flag from hitting the ground. All praise is due to Allah. Every now and then your hand might get a little slippery. It might dip down and get real close to touching the earth. But when you look over at your brother and sister, when they smile and you frown, and you smile because they smile. When you get weak but they strong, you get strength from their strength. And you grab the flag of Islam with a firm grip and straighten your back up and lift it back high above your head, and we will never let that flag hit the ground. All praise are due to Allah. I thank Allah for my big brother and mentor in the ministry, Minister Ishmael Muhammad, and the great work and example that he is doing here in Chicago and all over our nation. I thank Allah for him and everything that he does and shall do in the future, and the great example that he has set for me. I also thank Allah, in addition to the master, the messenger, the minister, the Muslims, Minister Ishmael. I thank Allah for our Sister National Captain Aisha Muhammad, the National Secretary, our Regional Captain, and all of the laborers and all of the lieutenants and all of the squad leaders and all of those who hold posts, and y'all know what I'm talking about. It takes a lot to make a nation do what it do. And in the nation of Islam, we are different than the United States of America. We are, bar none, an independent nation. We don't necessarily have gold like they have in Saudi Arabia. We don't necessarily, or oil like they have in Saudi Arabia, or gold like they have in South Africa. Other nations might have more nuclear power than what we have. But we have something in our nation that Saudi Arabia, Kenya, South Africa, or China can't boast about. And that's a visit from God in person and the divine revelation revealed by Master Farad Muhammad. All praises are due to Allah. Well, in that sense, we are a nation that is trying to build while the white man's world is being maintained. It takes much more work to build a thing than it does to maintain a thing. When you are maintaining a world, you can be on the clock for 8 hours and only do 2 hours of work. But when you are building a nation, you have to be on the clock for 2 hours, but do 8 hours worth of work in them 2 hours when you're striving to build a nation. So I thank Allah for all of the workers, all of the staff, all of the helpers, and all of the believers that strive to keep our headquarters the head of our nation. Brothers and sisters, we wanted to take on a subject today titled Godhood. As we have moved across the nation and to mosques and different schools and universities, churches, even in some synagogues, we have found that the biggest and the most universal spiritual impediment of our people is not that we don't believe in God or Jesus, or it's not that we don't believe in Allah and Muhammad. And even in our nation, it's not that we don't believe in Master Farad Muhammad the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad or the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. But what we find as the universal epidemic among all of us as a people on a spiritual level is that we lack belief in ourselves. So Master Farad Muhammad is the all-wise, the all-powerful, the true, and the living God. We bear witness to that. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we stand firmly and say that he is the exalted Christ. And we stand on top of the world and chant to the masses of our people that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is the baddest, the boldest, the wisest, the most courageous black man walking the face of the planet Earth. But when we get finished with all of that, all praise is due to Allah. When we get finished with all of that, how do we define ourselves in the line of divine? How do we see ourselves and the power that we have the ability to exhibit? So the Honorable Louis Farrakhan has caused us to see and to understand that this struggle for poor self-worth, this lack of self-esteem, this blind to the knowledge of self, that this is an effect that has come from a cause. He said to us in the torchlight of America that the best way that civilization is inherited or passed on is through sayings and through songs. Didn't he say that? So when you listen to music, you are listening to the universal language of a people. And when you listen to the everyday sayings of a people, then you have a mirror to the way that mind thinks of that nation. Well, if every song is dropping it like it's hot, if every song is backing that thing up, if every song is degrading black women and dope dealer theme music and talking about shooting this brother, smoking this brother, gunning down this brother, then that is a sign that that is the mirror of the mind of the masses of black people. And when you look at the sayings of us as a people, and in America in particular, notice that every saying that has black attached to it is always negative. But every saying that has white attached to it is generally positive. So when you get kicked out of an organization, you got blackballed. Am I telling the truth? When you're having bad luck, you behind the what? The 8 ball. The black ball. It happened to be the last ball that goes in on the pool game. And if you knock it in too early, you lose automatically. Is that right? When the stock market crashed, it was Black Monday. If somebody set you up and framed you, they blackmailed you. When you the misfit of your family, they call you the black sheep of the bunch. Is that right? When you go buy white cake with white icing, they call it angel food cake. But when you get chocolate cake with chocolate icing, they call it devil food cake. Everything black has been made bad and white has been made good. All praises are due to Allah. Then when you read the Bible, we are the cursed seed of Ham. We have been taught and trained from the word of God that we are not black because we are first, but we are black because we are cursed. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that black is not a color, but black is the essence from which all color comes from. In fact, if you take all of your crayons or all of your paint set and mix every color in the paint set together, when you get finished spinning and mixing, it'll come out black. Why? Because all the colors are broken down and are various shades and hues of the original color, which is black. All praises are due to Allah. So the white man knows that by making us use as a saying that a Negro ain't nothing, never was nothing, and never will be nothing. Some of us will say, you pretty cute to be so black. Huh? And you can be a bee, you can be a spineless, gutless, low to the ground, earthly worm, hobo built something. And you cool with that. But if somebody happened to say you are a black so-and-so, immediately that's fighting words. Why? Because subconsciously we have been programmed to believe that everything that is black is bad and everything that is white is good. So when we come and say that we represent Farrakhan, a black man, We represent a man named Elijah Muhammad, a black man. We represent Master Farad, a black God. Then that psychological subconscious programming rises up, and there is a built-in defense mechanism put in the head of the original people by John Hawkins and reinforced by Willie Lynch and being fed by the educational system and Reverend Porkchop and Bishop Hogmaw. And everything in this world feeds the fact that black can't be great. Black can't be divine. So when it comes time for us to be taught, to be led, to be guided, we are looking for a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white man to float out of the sky and lead and teach and guide us. When there's a Jesus that has popped up already from the midst of black people, and his name is the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. All praises are due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad asked us the question, who is the original man? Didn't he? And the answer was the original man is the Asiatic black man. He's the maker. And since he made it, what? He owns it. He's the cream of the planet Earth. And he's the God of the universe. Well, when you look at that, he's showing that everything came from you and me. Science came from the black mind. Mathematics came from black people. In fact, every person on the planet is a byproduct of a black man and a black woman. If there was no black man and black woman, you couldn't have a red man. You couldn't have a brown man. You couldn't have a yellow man. You couldn't even have no white man. If the original people were white, then no black people could have ever come into existence. For their own scientists bear witness in the Mendelian law that black skin is dominant and brown eyes are dominant, while white skin and blue eyes are recessive. You can get from the dominant the recessive, but you can't get from the recessive the dominant. In other words, you can get white out of black, but you cannot get no black out of white. Even when you go to the dojo, when you are a beginner in the class, when you're new to the study of martial arts, they introduce you with the white belt. Is that right? But as you began to work your forms and work your katas, did I hear somebody say us? As you began to learn your roles and learn your hand locks, learn your takedown moves, then you began graduating out of that white beginning belt into another color belt. But when you get past that yellow belt and into those other color belts, when you get to that final belt, it's the master belt. It's not the brown belt. It's not the red belt. It's not the yellow belt. But it's the black belt. And then you just stay black. You just get another degree black. A second degree black, a third degree black, a fourth degree black, because the black man is the master. All praise are due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. The book of Malachi 3 verse 6 says that I am the Lord, I changeth not. That means that Almighty God Allah has a particular methodology. He has a formula by which he does things. We have this spooky interpretation of God as being this big old white man in space, half white boy, half ghost, shooting lightning bolts down. But Almighty God Allah uses mathematics. He uses science. He uses experimentation. He uses the law of cause and effect to bring his will into existence. Well, if I am the Lord, I do not change. What is the methodology for divine guidance that God has set up as a pattern? I petition to you, black man and woman, that we might have more of a right as a people to recognize the greatness of black people than any other people on the planet have the right to recognize the greatness of themselves. For when Moses went to God and stuck his hand into the chest of God and he pulled it out, it said that his hand was turned white. Well, if it was turned white, it had to go in a different color, so it went in black before it got altered to another color. All praises are due to Allah. Solomon's called the wisest man in the Bible. And he said that I am black but comely. O ye daughters of Jerusalem. Is that right? Abraham was from Babylon, but he was accused of being an Egyptian man. And the word Egypt comes from the Latin word Aegyptus, meaning land of black and burnt-skinned people. Well, how could Abraham be confused with being an Egyptian if he wasn't black and burnt skin? So the father of the righteous was a black man. Jesus was not Michelangelo's cousin that you see on them walls. Jesus was not no brunette. He was not no redhead or no blonde-haired, pale-faced, blue-eyed Savior. Jesus had hair like lamb's wool. He had feet like brass that had been burned in an oven. Well, if brass is brown and you burn it, you know it's going to be black. Wool is nappy. So now Jesus got nappy, kinky hair with black feet. Another verse said he had the complexion like that of jasper. Another one said he had the complexion like that of sodden stone. Another one said he had an olive complexion. And olives are either green or black. We know he wasn't no green man. His mother Mary was an Egyptian woman. Is that right? Well, if she's an Egyptian woman, she come from the land of black and burnt skin people. She's a black woman. Therefore, the byproduct of a black womb is always a black child. So he had to be a black man. In fact, whenever they decided to hide him from King Herod, when they decided to get him away from the soothsayers, the magicians and the enchanters, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they told him to hide in where? Egypt. Well, when you are hiding, another word for hiding is camouflaging. When you are camouflaging, you are trying to put yourself in an outfit that matches the color code of your environment. So when the white man goes in the jungle, he wears green fatigues because that's the color of the trees. When he's in the desert, he wears beige because that's the color of the sand. When he's on a night mission, he wears black. Is that right? When he's in the snow, he wears white fatigue. What if Jesus is going to camouflage in Egypt? He can't be no little white baby among a land of black and burnt skinned people and not be caught. He would have been caught if he was a white boy, but he wasn't caught because he looked like his environment. All praise are due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. Some of y'all say, I didn't know you Muslims believed in the Bible. Oh yeah, we believe in the Bible, but we believe in the truth of the Bible. We believe, however, that it has been tampered with. Therefore, it must be reinterpreted so that man and mankind will not be snared by the many falsehoods that have been added to it. You say, I thought y'all had your own Muslim Bible. The Quran. The Quran is the best friend of the Bible. The Holy Quran is that book that bears witness to the truth of the Bible. There would never have been a need for a Holy Quran if the Bible had not been messed up. But there was a man by the name of King James. Did you hear what I just said? On the first page of the Bible, it says that this is the Holy Bible. Proper, except the spelling of holy is wrong. They should have put an E in front of the Y because it got plenty of holes in it. But it said this Bible has been translated from what? Former translations. The law of translation that we learned in kindergarten was when we all sat in a circle and the teacher said that there was a red dog and a pink cat that stood on a blue moon. And that child's job was to send it through each person in the circle. But by the time it got to the end of the circle, it wasn't no red dog, no pink cat, or no blue moon. It was a black dog and a Cadillac with some D's on it. That's the law of translation. There's no such thing as being able to take one thing from the next and the next to the next, and it keeps its original purity. So if this book Bible was translated from former translations, that means several people then put it through a cycle where they have bent and manipulated and extracted the purity from it. Then after all of that, they said King James gave his version. Well, what is a version? A version is a person's perspective or perception. Is that right? Perception of reality is that person's reality, but it don't mean it's necessarily the reality. Perception is determined, and versions are determined by how close you are to what you judge. If there's an object blocking your view, is that right? Or if you are distracted when you're trying to make that judgment. Well, if you and me are looking at a car accident, but I'm 100 feet further from it than you are, you're going to have a better version of the accident than me. If I'm standing where a pole is blocking my view, I might say the red car hit the blue car, but you were there, you know the blue car caused the accident. Well, just as it is with a physical law, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said all physical laws have a spiritual counterpart. Is that right? So if someone was given a version of something physical and they are far away with an object blocking their view, then they would not give a good version of that. Well, what distance is King James from the Word of God? What type of life did he live that might be blocking his view of seeing the revelation of God properly? We found out a little something about King James. Y'all all right? King James was a homosexual. King James had intercourse with his own biological mother. In fact, Queen Elizabeth had issued what was called a 100-year plan. Her goal was to kidnap black people from Africa, transport them to America, make them into slaves. She didn't even live to be 100 years of age, so you know she wasn't the queen. But somebody finished the job, didn't they? If they didn't, we wouldn't even be here right now talking. We are the bearer of witness that the 100-year plan was complete. Well, King James, the same one that translated the Bible, came right after Queen Elizabeth. So he was the fulfiller of the slave trade. Y'all not hearing me? So we landed in Jamestown, Virginia. We came up the James River, named after King James. Is that right? So now you got a man that had intercourse with his own mama, a homosexual, and a slave trader, giving you and me the version of a translated interpretation of the Word of God. I wouldn't trust that man to even work the cash register at my gas station, let alone to interpret the Word of God. All praises are due to Allah. All praises are due to Allah. So right now, Jesus has been used as a marketing tool. Oh, yes, he is. The white man is pimping Jesus like Nike pimped Michael Jordan. They seen a man that knew how to fly. They seen a man that knew how to perform miracles on a basketball court, that knew how to make a whole team better just off of his skill level. So Nike was struggling. Nike was losing money. Nike needed a marketing tool. So they researched in the NBA and found a man that could work miracles on a basketball court. And they took Michael Jordan and took his logo and pulled their logo off. You didn't hear me. But even though there wasn't no swoosh on it no more, it still was made by the same Nike. Is that right? And as time went on, they began to sell this Jumpman shoe, this Jordan shoe, for $100, $125, $175, now over $200. And after they got people to like Jordans, they snuck the swoosh back in. And now they have been charging us $200 and $300 sometime for a $5 pair of shoes. Well, the same way Nike was falling apart And they used Jordan as a miracle worker on the court, a marketing tool to regenerate their business. That's the way the white man did white supremacy. He used Jesus as a marketing tool and got everybody thinking Jesus and Jesus and Jesus. But behind Jesus was not Nike, but white supremacy, where they were programming the black mind to think less of themselves. All praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. So, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said that there's nothing that we can't accomplish. Is that right? But in order for us to bring something into existence, we have to have will. Truth? Then he said to us that desire is food for that will. Right? Well, what is a food for desire? In order for you to have desire that produces will, you have to have a goal. And in order for you to make something or someone a goal, you have to find something in common with what you're looking at. So the white man knew that taking all of the original black prophets and painting them white, all the angels painting them white, all the disciples painting them white, and the Son of God painting him white, that we would begin to look at this image, and since we didn't have nothing in common, we couldn't compare. And if we can't compare, we can't set no goal. If we have no goal, we have no desire. And if we have no desire, we don't have no will. And if we don't have no will, we can't bring it into existence. So now you got people beating tambourines, foaming at the mouth, jumping over benches, falling all out, looking up, believing in a mystery God, worshiping Jesus instead of bearing witness to Jesus, because we've been psychologically programmed that, wait a minute. All right, Jesus, Son of God, he's white. Okay, if he's the Son of God and he's white, logic circuits kick in. If he's the Son of God and he's white and God is his Father, then God must be white too. And if God is good and God is love and God is white and I am black, that means I'm opposite of white, opposite of good, opposite of love. I'm opposite of God. Maybe I am of the cursed seed. So even though we bear witness to Allah, to Muhammad, God, Jesus, Master Farad Muhammad, the messenger and the minister, we're finding it difficult to bear witness to the power within our own selves. Are y'all all right? This is why they're so afraid of Farrakhan. This is why the primary target of the U.S. government is the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. The ultimate aim of this world is to kill the messenger of God. Why? Because he has the ability not just to speak power to the powerful, but he knows how to teach and give power to the powerless. How does he do it? He teaches us that every time you look at a black man or woman, you're looking at God. Is that right? He teaches that the black woman is the second self of God, that a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And where there are no decent women, there are no decent men. For the black woman is the mother of civilization. She's the first nurse. She's the first doctor. Is that right? She's the first teacher. She was the first Muslim. For after the originator created himself from triple darkness, his first act of creation was his woman. And she became his helpmeet. So technically, the original Muslim is the black woman. Did y'all hear me? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches that there's no such thing as a no good woman. But any woman that was made that way by what? A no good man. He said that you didn't come from no rib of Adam, but you came out of the very essence of God. So you are not the woman of man. You are, in fact, the woman of God. And that's the reason why we're struggling so much to get our relationship right, because we don't look enough like God yet. But we're working on it. All praises are due to Allah. This rib thing has been used to promote sexism. This rib thing has been used to demean the woman. It has some significance, but it ain't the physical thing.
We got to get this cartoon mind away from ourselves when it comes time to relate to God. We see God in the desert, snatching a rib out of a man while he sleep and spinning the rib around until the sand jumps on it and shazam, hocus pocus, abracadabra, there's a woman. It didn't go down like that. No, look at the rib. The rib is that which protects the lungs. The rib is that which protects the heart. Likewise, black woman, you are supposed to protect the inspiration of a community and the compassion and love of a community. Notice that the rib is not behind the man, not underneath the man's feet, not above the man's head, but the rib is right there by his side, because that's where you're supposed to be, black woman, right there by your black man's side. The rib comes right underneath the arm. Why? Because we are supposed to, as men, respect and protect the black woman. Is that right? The rib is created with its own shape. Likewise, the male is not like the female, and the female's not like the male. So you can't make no woman into no man, and you can't try to make your man into no woman. You let that man be a man, and you let your woman be a woman. And if in fact we was functioning in accord with our nature, then we wouldn't have so many daggone problems in our relationship. The problem is that the man was created 75% masculine and only 25% feminine, while the female's created 75% feminine and only 25% masculine. But we live in the white man's world. We live in Satan's world. And Satan's goal is to turn people upside down and inside out. So he gives the black woman a job. Is that right? That pays more than her man, feeding the more of the 25% masculine in you. Is that right? He has you at home watching TV. Can't get no job. Feed more of that 25% feminine in you. Y'all ain't hearing me. So you got people walking around talking about, I don't know what it is, I feel like I'm a man in a woman's body. God didn't make no freaks. God didn't make no lesbians. God didn't make no faggots. The white man made lesbians and freaks and faggots out of black people by diametrically opposed civilization. All praise is due to Allah. Let me tell y'all something, brothers and sisters. Black people ain't in the condition that we in for no reason at all. White folks don't have more because they smarter than black people. How you gonna get smarter than a pyramid builder? The white man don't have more than us because he worked harder than we've worked. How you gonna outwork a slave? Let me tell you what happened. We are on a real life monopoly board in the hells of North America. But instead of there being a wheelbarrow and a thimble and a hat, there's the black man, the brown man, the red man, yellow man, and white man. But we came to the real life board of monopoly and didn't nobody give us our money. We didn't get no 40 acres and a mule. We didn't get no stocks and bonds. We didn't inherit no property or no real estate. So every nation comes to the table with their 2 500s. Y'all don't remember monopoly? They 2 100s. They 4 56, 20s, 5 10s, 5s, and 1s. Is that right? So as they move around the board, they have the option to buy or at least rent. But what if you start the game like we started in 1865? What if you start the game with nothing? Then you can't buy and you can't rent. So you can't even live on the board. So black people have been living outside the board. And that's welfare. That's hustling dope. And since we've been living outside the board, we've been going to jail. Going directly to jail. We haven't passed go and we ain't collected our $200, but it ain't because they worked harder or because they smarter. It's because the world is the way that it is. All praise is due to Allah. So the most honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that the last trick of the white man was the white woman. That's what he taught us. And it is an actual fact. I don't know how you do it, black man. How you get that nasty white girl? No, wait a minute. Samson was a black man. Delilah was a Philistine woman, a white woman. Samson had power. Samson had strength. Samson had authority. But all of a sudden he fell asleep and his locks got cut off by this Philistine. Let me tell you something, black man, don't no hairdo make you strong. So you can have the longest dreadlocks that you want. That ain't gonna make you no stronger and no blacker. Last I checked, I've been seeing plenty of brothers with long dreadlocks and white girls. Our problem is that we don't want to work for the freedom of a people. So we slap on a red, black, and green wristband, a Marcus Garvey t-shirt, a chew stick in our mouth and throw some henna dye in our beard, wear some jalabias, y'all know what I'm talking about, and we make our outfit the contribution to the revolution. No, but faith without works is dead. Be ye not just hearers of the word, but get up and be doers of the word. Stop wearing the outfit and start wearing the infit, and let's build a nation for ourselves. All praise is due to Allah. It wasn't what was on the outside of the man's head that made him strong. It was what was on the inside of his head that made him strong. But even if you don't want to get biblical or spiritual or religious, I don't know about you, but when you think about a black woman, Harriet Tubman should pop up in your mind sometime. Mary McLeod Bethune, Madam C.J. Walker, Rosa Parks, Sojourner Truth, your mama. And if that ain't a good enough reason to get you a black woman instead of the skunk of the planet Earth, something wrong with you, black man. All praise is due to Allah. The black woman is the most beautiful woman on the planet. If you ever seen a cute white girl, you only call her that because she looked like a black woman. Well, why settle for the margarine when you can get the butter? Why settle for the concentrate when you get the pure 100% organic, original woman, the queen of the planet Earth? Put her on your arm and take care of her and leave that white girl alone. All praises are due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. You didn't pick that white girl because you loved her. Your mind began to regurgitate the thoughts on the plantation. Whenever the black woman was in the field sweating like you were sweating, dirty like you were dirty, working hard and getting calluses like you were getting calluses, not allowed to get in the bath, not allowed to put on perfume, not allowed to wear fine clothing or to celebrate any forms of femininity. But Miss Ann was getting massages, foot rubs, perfumed up, fine dresses, her hair done, strolling past, and you began to develop an inordinate respect for the white woman. So now we get a white girl thinking that we're getting closer to the master. And that's the last trophy I need, is to actually get me a white girl. No, leave that white girl alone. In closing, family, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad again said, for every physical law, there's a spiritual counterpart. Is that right? So when you look at the dreadlocks on the outside of the head, that's a sign of knowledge inside of the head. Is that right? Well, when he said the last trick of the white man would be the white woman, he wasn't just talking about the white girls, but there's a dope on the market right now. that used to be affectionately called the white girl. And now I'm being rekindled in the music as the white girl. Am I telling the truth? Could it be that the last trick of the white man wasn't just his physical woman, but there's also a spiritual female he put in the black community too? That can do what Delilah did to Samson to the black man and woman of America? Crack cocaine is destroying black people. Got us watching the news ticker, concerned with some weapons of mass destruction 9,000 miles away. Got us worrying about Al Qaeda. We really need to be concerned with some weapons of mass deception in America. And our enemy ain't never been no Al Qaeda. It's always been Al Cracker. For the last 400 years, we've been in the hells of North America. So, all praise is due to Allah. So, crack cocaine is a biological weapon. It is a chemical weapon used on black people. That's the reason why black people that smoke it and white people that smoke it have different results. White man hit the pipe, keep his job, keep his house, keep his family together. Might even still be the soccer coach. Black man take one hit, lose his job, lose his wife, lose his mama, lose his car. Is that right? Why? Because crack cocaine, heroin, these are called designer drugs. Well, what is designer clothing? Designer clothing is whenever someone has studied a particular market and has made clothing to fit the mind of that market. So Rockaware, Inichi, academics. That is a study that's been done on the hip-hop community and black people. Is that right? Because they figure black people would wear it. But St. John's Bay, sisters, Masuk. Yeah, y'all know, y'all, some of y'all know something about that. That costs that money. That'd be the $150 tank top. That's designed for a different market. So when you have designer clothing, they take into consideration the mind and culture of a particular market and fix the fashion to suit that market. Well, if crack cocaine is a designer drug, who do they tailor make it for? Do you know that whenever we inhale the vapors of the crack, that it says to the mind that this is melanin? And since melanin is found in the original people, not found in white people. Did y'all hear what I just said? They don't have the chemical of melanin, but we do. Melanin is in the core of the brain, all through the body, built in. Some even say that the carbon levels in the bone is partial melanin in black people. So whenever a white man smokes it, he has no melanin. It just gets him high, it comes down, they normally recover. But when we take a hit, it says to our mind, this is melanin. So it doesn't just take over the brain, but it goes all through the body and completely consumes the black person. So crack is some device used heavier than what you are dealing with that divides one side against the other. Well, when the white man dropped crack cocaine, in the black community divided us up, one from another. So the husbands are divided from the wives. Is that right? We divided from our children because of a biological weapon. Y'all all right? Well, family, when we gauge all of that which we are dealing with in the world that we are fighting, then those of us that are Muslims, we have to gird up our loins and fight harder with the truth. Did y'all hear me? Black people have tried everything that the white man has suggested. It has not proven to work good for us yet. Said we needed more college graduates. We had more graduate from college last year than in the last 5 years put together. But the condition ain't really changed that much. White man said Negroes need more money in their pocket. Well, we brought in $697 billion last year, meaning that we have more money than Mexico and only $3 billion shy of the whole country of Spain. But Spain has their own airport. Spain has their own system of commerce. Spain has their own government. Spain has their own systems of education. But we don't own nothing and only got $3 billion less. Spain got 400 million people and their own world. We only 40 million strong and we don't have nothing, but we got the same amount of money. So money ain't been doing it for us. They said we needed to go vote. We didn't register more people to vote every year, breaking records every year. Right now, we have 550 black mayors in America and almost 11,000 black elected officials, but the condition has not yet changed. There's only two things that black people have never tried. That is unity and changing our religion. Unity and changing our religion. We done tried everything else. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us that Islam don't come in the beginning. Islam comes after all else has failed. Well, Islam is here, black man and woman. We've been laying in, bagging in, striking. We've been Holy Ghost dancing, beating our tamarines, falling out, getting dumped in the baby swimming pools. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. And we ain't became no better. Only difference between us before we got baptized and after we got baptized is we started off a dry Negro and came out a cold and wet Negro. But still was Negroes after being dipped 3 times in the baby swimming pool. Jesus said to the world that I was baptized in water, but ye shall be baptized in the Spirit. So the real baptism ain't being dunked in the back of the church 3 times in no little water. Spiritually, you're supposed to dip your mind into some knowledge, some wisdom, and some understanding. And if you do that, then now you are involved in the circumcision of the heart. That's what you call being brainwashed in the truest sense of the word. Well, brothers and sisters, whenever the slave traders kidnapped us, transported us on the ships, we met up with another group of white people called slave makers. Is that right? The slave trader was not the same as the slave maker, and the slave maker was not the same as the slave master. Maybe that's why in the story of the Masonic Lodge of Hiram Abiff, there's a Jubilo, Jubilah, and a Jubileum. Maybe that was the slave trader, the slave maker, and the slave master. And since the Quran says that the Jews are responsible for the murder of all the prophets, I wonder why the 3 names start off Jubilo, Jubilah, and Jubileum, and it just so happened that the Jews owned the slave ships that brought us to America. They gave the Englishmen the property called body, and they took the land. You didn't hear what I just said? So they loaned them ships transporting us so they could have the human cargo, while they took the land that they had kidnapped us from. And in the land there was rubies, silver, there was gold. So now the Jews of America, they're Rubystein, Silverstein, Goldsmith. And when you want to buy your rubies, your diamonds, your gold, you go to a jewelry store. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But when we got here, after the slave trader kidnapped us, brought us 9,000 miles from our original land, we met someone called slave makers. The slave maker's job was to mill the black man and woman down. Why you use the term milling? Because the same way they mill wheat flour and convert it into bleached white flour is the same process that they use to break the black man down into a Negro. We came to America, we were gods. We came to America, we were goddesses. We came to America, we were kings, we were queens. We were rulers. So the white man had to murder all of the adults so that even though we had no books, even though we had no temples no more, even though we didn't have access to any mystery schools, it was a chance that grandmama and granddaddy and father and mother might pass on the great rich legacy of our ancestry. So kill off the adults, spare the children, raise them in the way I want them to be raised. Y'all ain't hear what I'm saying? And since the greatest attribute of the human being is adaptability, they have seen that if you take a frog and drop it in a pot of boiling water, the shock will make it jump out immediately. But if you put that same frog in a pot of lukewarm water and gradually increase the heat underneath it, then that frog won't leave, it will die inside of the pot. So by taking the child and killing off the adult, they eliminated the shock of our new arrival in the hells of America. And they gradually introduced the young as a baby, as a child, into the intense heat of the fire of the hells of America. And what has happened to you and me, black man and woman? We have adjusted. We have adopted. We have associated with and assimilated into, and we have gradually gotten used to being second-class citizens. Gradually gotten used into working hard and getting nothing. Gradually gotten used to having poor self-worth, being poor, hungry, naked, out of doors. Because they got us as babies. Well, when they first got us here, the white man lied about the date. He said he brought us here in 1619. But in the Congressional Library in Washington, D.C., the Honorable Elijah Muhammad exposed that we didn't come here in no 1619, on no Nina, Pinta, Santa Maria, or on no Mayflower. We came here on a ship named Jesus. Some other ships named Saints of Christ and Grace of God, captained by a man named Sir John Hawkins in 1555. Y'all with me? But they said 1619 because that's a 64-year window of time. That was the time called the slave breaking process or the milling process. When they mill wheat, they take out all of its fiber and all of its nutrients, 14 in number, and then they bleach it and add 2 of them back. And after they bleach it and add 2 back, they sell it to us as enriched white flour. Now, if you had $14 million and I took all your money and came back and said, look, here's $2 million back, you would not consider me to be enriching you. You would still consider that to be stealing. The white man didn't give us nothing when he gave us a slave master's religion. He didn't give us nothing when he let us integrate into the white man's world. He had already taken all of the power out of black people and gave us some artificial stuff. Well, there was a man named Willie Lynch that popped up in 1712. He was a hired business consultant because slavery was a business. No, excuse me, slavery is a business. It's still slaves right now in 2007. In fact, some of us are more slaves now than our people ever were back then. Because the definition of a slave is one that has voluntarily submitted and lost a power of resistance. We didn't volunteer to come to America, and we didn't lose our power to resist. If we lost our power to resist, why did the sharks hover around the slave ship? If we wasn't trying to resist, why did they have to chain up our feet and our hands? No, you chain up feet because somebody might kick you or run with them. You chain hands because somebody might build or might punch you with them. That means that we had the power of resistance. Well, after they realized that black people didn't necessarily have the will anymore to run or kick, the will anymore to build or fight, then they took the shackles off the hands and the feet because they knew they already had shackles on our minds. And today, right now, we don't have no chains on our feet. Do we? We don't have no shackles on our hands, but we got them on our brains. In fact, most black people are in love with automobiles. Ain't that something? Now, back on the plantation, whenever they wanted to keep slaves in check, they used something called whips. I don't think y'all heard what I just said. When they wanted to keep slaves in check, they used something called whips. And now we affectionately call cars whips. And the same way that they used the cat of nine tails back then on that rebellious Negro, they are now using Escalades and Range Rovers and Benzes and Phantoms to control Negroes right now. Because all it takes is for you and me to ride in a good car and we can think something of ourselves. And as long as we think something of ourselves because of the jewelry we got on or the outfit we wear or the car that we riding in, then we don't see a need to build the real power in our own being and develop some substance of self. So it's a trick, black man and woman. All praises are due to Allah. I ain't saying there's nothing wrong with getting no money. Now get you some money, but stay moral. Ain't nothing wrong with having no finance, but make sure you got more faith than you have finance. Ain't nothing wrong with having the dollar, but make sure you put Allah before the dollar. And as long as you do that, you can get all the money that you want, but make sure Allah is first, foremost, and primary in everything we do. All praise is due to Allah. Willie Lynch, when he was hired in 1712, he said, "Gentlemen, I sit at the bank of the James River, named after our glorious and illustrious King James, whose version of the Bible we cherish." You didn't hear what he just said. This is a slave maker saying that King James was his glorious and illustrious king, and he loved his translation of the Bible. Something to think about. He said to them that he has noticed the hanging of people, the stench of a slave, and you are losing valuable property and messing up your economics. He said, I have in my bag a foolproof method by which you can use for the control of your slaves. It has worked for me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and I'm sure it will work for you. Any one of you can do it. Your overseers can do it. Even your children can run the program. Y'all all right? He said, I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I make them bigger than what they really are. Y'all hear me? Yes, he said, and if you will implement my method for 1 year, I guarantee you the slaves will become self-perpetuating, self-refueling for 300 years, maybe 1,000. He said, I put the young against the old and the old against the young. The male against the female, female against the male. The light against the dark, dark against the light. Short against tall, tall against short. One on a small plantation against the one on the big plantation. Didn't he say it? I put the one with coarse hair against the one with fine hair. Is that right? He outlined 11 differences. Y'all all right? To prove that it was effective, we still suffer from the same stuff right now. Light is against dark because we still say you're pretty cute to be so black. Male got to be against female, female got to be against male because 75% of all of our marriages are ending up in divorce. Small plantation against a big plantation. If you got what's called a good job and somebody working fast food, you think that you're better than that brother and sister. You out there at General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, thinking that you really got a good job. Ain't no good job. The only good job is the job that you provide for your own self, working in accord with your own vision. That's the only good job in this world. All praise is due to Allah. Notice that they call General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, we call them good jobs, but they call them plants. Plantation. Plant is an abbreviation for plantation. So just because you're a Negro working at General Motors don't make you no better than the Negro working at the Burger King drive-thru. But that's what Willie Lynch imposed on us. 11 different divisions. He said it would produce 300 years of perpetual disunity among us. 1712 plus 300 is 2012. We're still in the first 300. Well, if 11 divisions will produce 300 years of perpetual disunity, that means that each division has a time factor of putting Negroes on remote control. Bluetooth technology, wireless Negro. Did y'all hear me? A push button Negro. That means that they actually don't have to be there to get you to do what they want you to do. They can be in the satellite, send a signal. And by Bluetooth, wireless technology, and remote control, they can make Negroes do what they want them to do. Each division produces approximately 27 years, 3 months, and 7 days of disunity or remote control Negro. So if 11 produces 300, all it takes is for there to be 36 new labels that we adopt as a people, that we consider ourselves, to produce 1,000 years of perpetual disunity. Are y'all still with me? So now we done gone from just being short and tall, light and dark, male and female. Now we Baptist and Pentecostal. Now we Sunni and we Shiite. Now we Hebrew Israelite, now we Jews. Now we Crips, now we Bloods. Now we Vice Lords, now we traveling Vice Lord. Now we insane Vice Lords. Now we civilized Vice Lord. Now we BGD, now we GD, now we just BD. We cuz, we blood. We east side, we west side. We from the Black Firefighters Union. We the black lawyers, we the black medical, so forth. And we've got so many new labels that we take more pride in than what Allah gave us from the womb of our mother. Because I'm going to tell you something, whether you're a firefighter, whether you're a police officer, whether you think you're safe in the white man's army, whether you are a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew, when the white man make a move on the black community, he don't care whether you read the Quran or the Bible, you a Negro in his ass, and he going to deal with us all the same. All praise is due to Allah. Well, if the white man is going to attack us as one, then we are obligated to defend ourselves as one people. And then after we defend ourselves against our open enemy, we can go into private closed doors and work out ideologies and philosophies and belief systems and persuasion. But right now, all hands need to be on deck. Black people are dying from AIDS, dying from suicide, dying from homicide, dying from crack cocaine, dying from heroin, dying from gang violence. The hell with your label and your title. We got to come together and fight like hell against our open enemy. All praise is due to Allah. And Muslims, we got to be the example of that. Standing together as a solid wall, ranged in ranks, defending that which we love and that which we believe. And we got to grow and mature to our belief in Allah, His messenger, and the minister, and even learn how to believe in ourselves. Because if we only believe in Allah and the messenger and the minister and don't believe in ourselves and our community, what you gonna do whenever they not on the scene? Physically like we used to. No, but we on the scene still. And we should see Farrakhan in every sister, Farrakhan in every brother. We should see the messenger in every brother and every sister. we should see Master Farad Muhammad walking inside of all of us. And when we see each other like that, and we listen to the same music with our brother in the car that we would listen to if Master Farad Muhammad was riding with us. When we shake our brother's hand, we shake our brother's hand with the same respect that we would shake Master Farad Muhammad's hand with. Whenever our sister's in trouble, our brother's in trouble, we rush to their aid like God is in trouble. Then at that point, we were standing together as a solid wall, not disunited, able to defend off our enemy. But if we don't stand together in unity and bond ourselves like we should, the enemy's working on us right now, nation. The Holy Quran says we're going to stand as a solid wall. Is that right? Well, what makes a wall? A wall is made up of individual bricks that are bound together by mortar on all its sides that holds each brick together to form one solid wall. And that wall's job is to protect something more valuable than itself. Is that right? Well, if we are believers to be ranged together in ranks as a solid wall, then we are bricks, individual bricks. But we are bound together by mortar. What is our mortar? Everything in creation has an adhesive that keeps it together, don't it? When you want to put metal together, you got to solder it. When you want to put wood together, there's glue specially for wood. There's a special adhesive made for the rubber that takes in consideration the nature of everything. Well, word is bond. Bond is another word for adhesive, mortar. So our word is our adhesive. And if we tell the truth to one another and we bear witness to the truth that came from God, then by us bearing witness to God's truth and make sure we tell our truth, then we are providing the proper mortar between each brick that will make us stand together as a solid wall. Because the enemy desires us, that he might sift us as wheat. Well, whenever an enemy's coming to get something behind the wall, he's going to test the weak points in the wall. Is that right? He's going to involve himself in a reconnaissance mission where he's going to secretly be tapping on different areas of the wall to see where the weakest point is at. Is that right? And if he comes to tap on you and we shake a little bit, we break a little bit, he don't attack, he just remembers that spot. If he sees a group of brothers and sisters that hang out with one another, that are engaged in gossip or slack talk or slander, that are always looking to criticize leadership, that want justice for everybody else but mercy for themselves, then he's tapping on you to see if he can find a weak point in the wall. And when he finds that weak point in the wall, guess what he do? He says, when he strategizes, all right, that little area right there, that group of people, those are the ones we're going to attack. Because that's the weakest point in the wall. We'll bust through that and get to Islam and get to the messenger that's behind that solid wall. But what if we stand together ranged in ranks as a solid wall? That means it ain't no slack talking, ain't no gossiping, ain't no backbiting, ain't no hating going on, ain't no envy, ain't no jealousy, ain't no, what, am I saying something wrong? Ain't nobody tripping because she cuter than you, or she slimmer than you, or because he got a little more money than you have, or because he sold you a little bit better, or he teach you a little bit better. No, when we get to that point where we love each other's success more than we love our own success, when I like to see you riding better than I ride, I want to see you with more than I have. I want to see you smarter than I am, more powerful than I am. I want to see you lose that weight, black woman. I want to see you get yourself together, black man. I want to see your relationships restored, black family. And when we smile more for other people's progress, we are strengthening the mortar between each brick. Therefore, we can stand together as a solid wall. And when the enemy make his move on us, I don't know about y'all, but I've been waiting ever since I came in the nation for the opportunity to retaliate on this dang old white man for the hell that he gave you and me and my people and our ancestors. I love self-improvement, prayer, studying, and fasting. But the Quran prescribes only 3 things: prayer, fasting, and retaliation. So just like prayer and fasting, we know that there's some spiritual, physical benefits. I'm telling you, it's going to be some spiritual and physical benefits when we finally get that opportunity to deal grill to grill, toe to toe, blow for blow with our enemy that's been giving us hell for the last 400 years. All praise is due to Allah. And I'm going to tell you something. If you didn't come from the fight, you in the wrong spot. Because Muhammad don't raise nothing weak, nothing fast, nothing loose, and nothing cheap. I'm going to tell you something, black man, if you don't want to rumble with this enemy, you in the wrong place. Because Muhammad don't raise no punks, no sissies, no faggots, and no chumps. Muhammad make men. All praises are due to Allah. And when that day come, FOI got to be FOI. Vanguard got to be Vanguard. MGT got to be MGT. Hell, the juniors got to be juniors. The babies need to throw their bottle. Hit them with the rattler, whatever you can do. But you and I should be looking forward, licking our lips and rubbing our hands for the opportunity to turn our training into a reality. And finally, once and for last, in Allah's name, and in the name of the Messenger and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, overcome this enemy once and for all and establish the kingdom of Islam in the name of Master Farad Muhammad. Thank you, family, for listening. I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. All praise is due to Allah. Thank you, family. All praise is due to Allah. Thank you. All praise is due to Allah. Thank you, family. All praises are due to Allah. Thank y'all, brothers and sisters. We gonna win, y'all. You hear me? Victory is promised. All we gotta do is be willing to swing. And Allah gonna bless us to land flush. Are y'all all right? Well, brothers and sisters, I think it goes without saying that white people ain't gonna give us no money. What? No, we're going to have to finance our own freedom. Is that right? This portion of the meeting is just as important as the teaching part. I'm going to tell you something. The enemy is monitoring us, and as you've seen now, you can get on the internet and go almost in somebody's house. Google. Well, he's watching and he's mad to see the new people come to the mosque for the first time. Is that right? Well, if the devil's mad, then we should be so glad. Because he's going to miss some souls that he thought he had. Well, then he even gets madder when he sees us agreeing with the truth. He like, man. Next thing you know, he's going to see us give some money to the truth and then agree to study the truth and become better tomorrow than what we are today. That's nail in a coffin for him. So this time of raising charity gives you and me an opportunity to make our word bond. We tried to get money from the enemy, but he didn't give us none. We went to Bank One, and he only had money for one people. And we wasn't them ones. We went to Chase Bank, and he chased us away. We went to Key Bank, and he locked the door. We went to Society Bank. We wasn't a member of his society, so we couldn't even get in. We tried to go to Fifth Third, but since we was in the Constitution as 3/5, we couldn't get no money from them either, so we decided to get our own money from ourselves. Our whole praise is due to Allah. But with $697 billion, we got enough money as a people to finance our own freedom. And I don't know about you, but there ain't another man on the planet more worthy of support than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He deserves everything we have to give out of what we can spare and even sacrifice as often as we can. All praises are due to Allah. Thank Allah for the Honorable Louis Farrakhan.